Hello and welcome to another C3 Stingray video. If you haven't been following the series, you should. This is my series on this 1979 Corvette I bought for $1,500, and we're going to be rebuilding a bunch of stuff on it and putting an engine and transmission and getting this thing on the road on April 8th of next year. At least that's the plan. I ran into a big snafu. I had a bunch of issues in my house. I had to cut out the floors in 2 rooms in a hallway and replace a hot water heater and fix a couple leaks, and it was basically a nightmare. I'm only telling you this because I haven't been on vacation for a month. I've been working my butt off on something I didn't want to do, and I would much rather have been doing this right now. But anyway, I'm back at it. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. That way you'll get notified when new videos come out, and hopefully without any other issues. Please, no more issues. I will be doing these a lot faster. So today what we're doing is taking that suspension that we took off in the last episode, and we're going to be taking those ball joints out, and we're going to be taking the bushings out, and we're going to be taking that rotor off the hub, and that's a lot of work too. So let's just get into the video. First off, we're going to be replacing the ball joint in this upper control arm. Now there's 3 rivets holding the ball joint in. You can either take a center punch and hit the center of that and then start drilling it out, or in my case I'm just going to use a grinder and grind it down, because this whole ball joint's going to be replaced anyway, so what you're grinding here isn't going to matter. If you're taking any metal off, it doesn't really matter. What I do is just grind them all down flat, and then I use my air hammer and try to knock them out. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. In this case it didn't come out, so I had to grind again. But so I flipped it over here, taking that boot off the bottom, getting that out of the way, and one more hit with the air hammer, and this ball joint pops out, but those remaining remnants of the rivet are still in there. Now I should have just chiseled these off. I don't know why I grind them in this video. I don't know what I was thinking there, because when you grind you want to make sure you don't hit the control arm. But I'm grinding these flat and just going to knock them out with the air hammer. Big problem with drilling them out is you always got to make sure you don't screw the holes up, and it seems less likely to screw the holes up this way. Now we have to take off those end caps on that cross shaft on the control arm, and they are 2 9/16 bolts. Now to remove the bushings out of this control arm, you're supposed to have the GM tool, but that tool is not made anymore, and good luck ever trying to find one anywhere, even used. So I had to try to recreate my own, and I had bought a Maddox ball joint service kit from Harbor Freight for $90 that I used on my Dodge 2500 to rebuild the front end on that, and this came in pretty handy for this too. I tried to recreate that GM tool by cutting a piece of pipe in half. I took the 2.5-inch cup out of that service kit, and I bought 2 cap screws that are 3/8 24 thread cap screws. One's 2 inches long, one's 2.5 inches long. And as you can see here, I put it on my press, and I got the cap screw in the end, I got the pipe in between there, and then I got the cup on the bottom. That cup has to go around where the bushing is. It cannot touch the edges of the bushing, and this 2.5-inch worked really well. Works for this one and the lower control arm. So this is the setup. Then you just simply press the bushings out. At least that's the plan. These bushings are tough to get out. You can see these have been in here since 1979, so they're not really too happy about going anywhere. But on the first time down, you pull that out, and you can see it pushed the rubber right out. It did not push the sleeves on the inside or outside out at all, but the rubber did come out on the first try, and I was able to take that off. But you can see that inside sleeve still on the shaft, and that other sleeve is still in the control arm. But even with that out, I flipped it over, put the cap screw in on the other side, and I'm going to press the other direction now. And the other side didn't want to come out as easy. I had to do this 2 more times before I could get that rubber out. And you want to go slow. I have this in fast motion, but you want to go slow and watch to make sure you're not bending anything or screwing anything up or putting undue pressure that you need to put on this. Because these don't come on super easy. You just got to take your time. And I see other methods of people burning them out and drilling them out and doing all this. The press is so much easier, and I know you got to get a press in, but I think it's worth having around. Fortunately, this press, the legs aren't level and it's like rocking around. As you can see here, I dropped it here, but the rubber came out without any problems. Now I got the rubber out, but I got to get the rest of it out of the control arm and off the shafts. I did not show getting them off the shafts here, but I do show it on the lower arm. But I'm going to show you taking these out. Now we're going to go back to that Maddox service kit that we had. We're going to use that same 2.5-inch cup on the one side, and then I'm just taking, it's like a nut washer. It's got a nut in the center that's attached to it. It was just something I found lying around. I just use a nut washer because it's easier to hold in place. You could use a washer too. And just get that lined up and just crank it down and get that washer where it's flat. Right when you touch the edge of the control arm, stop there, and you should be able to just pull that right out. I mean, if you're lucky, all this will come out. I've done it before where this all comes out together when I do the press, but sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to go to this next step to get it completely out of there. As you can see, that pushed it up, and now I can just grab it and pull it right out of there. We just got to do the other side, and this upper control arm will be done. It's much easier doing it this way. I don't know why I did it upwards before. It's better if you set everything down below, because you can hold everything in place a lot easier and set it up. Like I said, this kit was $90, but I don't know, if you're working on cars at all this stuff, you're going to use it again and again. Now we're doing the lower control arm, and we're already starting off bad because the two 5/8-inch bolts holding those end caps on, I can't even get it off with the air impact. They wouldn't budge, and that's not good. So I'm going to take this bumper off here with a 1/2-inch. There's a 1/2-inch bolt with a nut on the bottom of each. So I have to reach under there and take that nut off on each side too, and pull that bumper out of the way. And next we got to take the nut off the top of that ball joint, which is a 13/16, and there's a lock washer on that. See, there's a lot of crud on this thing. A real mess. I was really not looking forward to doing this because these lower control arms are way tougher than the upper control arms in many ways. So I had to put it in the vise to break those end cap nuts off or bolts off. And I had to put a breaker bar on the 5/8 to get those loose. Since we're over here on the vise, I want to go ahead and put it in, and now we got to take off these two rivets on this ball joint, and this one we're going to have to drill out. So I took a punch and made the center. You want to get as good on the center as you can, and then just start drilling. Start with smaller drill bits and work your way up until you dig a nice little hole in that, and then I'm going to take a chisel on the air hammer and chisel that top off. So the only thing holding that on is there's a rivet on each side and that 13/16 nut that we already taken off earlier. So once I get this hollowed out really good, now I'm going to take the chisel. It peels off there pretty easy. You want to try to keep that as flat as you can. I really sharpened this chisel up, so it popped off there pretty easy. Now I'm going to take that air hammer with a punch and try to knock that loose. And once again, it's kind of hard. You want to hold that in there and try not to bounce around on the control arm and put dings all over the place or mess it up in any way. So I just hit it until it breaks loose. Now I'm on the other side. I already flipped it over. I'm going to drill that side and do the same thing again. Chisel that one off and knock it loose with this punch. Now I hit this a couple more times with the air hammer just to break it loose. It was loose, but it wasn't completely loose. Now I can hit it with the hammer and just knock it on out. Now we're going to start working on the bushings on the lower control arm. What we're going to need to do is take some of the rubber off on the inside. So you can see that those double hole mounts there lines up with where the stabilizer bar goes. It kind of helps you remember which way that cross shaft goes, because those two holes there line up with that stabilizer bar hole on that same side. But right now what I'm doing is cutting what rubber I can off the inside, because we need all the room we can to push when we put this in the vise to push it up and down. Because with the lower control arm you do not have as much room, and that cross shaft is way fatter, so you can't push it too far or you'll distort things. Now the cap screw on this is a 7/16 20 thread. So I bought another 2-inch and a 2.5 inch. I think I only used the 2.5 inch. I didn't have a big enough piece of pipe to make another one of those like I did with the upper control arm. But I had a really thick piece of wood, so I just traced that and then cut that out with a jigsaw, and it makes for a nice brace just to hold it so we don't have to worry about it bending. But you still need to worry about those parts there. Sometimes these will bend, especially if you try to push that cross shaft too far, so you got to keep an eye on that. And if that starts to bend, you're going to have to put something in between those. But you go really slow with this, because this is a lot harder. It doesn't want to move, and I just took my time with it and just kept going back and forth. I mean, I flipped this over multiple times, as you'll see, just trying to work that out, and I did work the rubber out. But it didn't fall out like it did with the upper control arm. I think that's why you only see upper control arm videos online, because they're so much easier to do. The lower control arm's a real pain in the butt. But it is doable, as you'll see, because it does get done, and this is a good example of one that doesn't want to get done, because it's been in there since 1979, so it's definitely, and it's, as you can see how crud encased these are. But I'm going back and forth, just working that rubber loose, and eventually it does work out for me. Now I'm sure there's some people that do not have a press, or probably don't want to buy a press, so you might have to look for a different way to do this, but I really enjoy using the press. I think it's an easier way. This press now costs like $180. I know I didn't buy it for that much when I bought mine like 10 years ago. I think I paid $120 for it, but I've had it for a long time. But you could also go on Marketplace or somewhere and find one for under $100, a used one, maybe even around 50. Look around. They're worth having around. You use them a lot. Well, not a lot, but they do come in handy. As you can see, I'd worked that out pretty far, and now I'm just using vice grips to pull the rest of the rubber out of here, and I get a good grip here, and bam, there it goes. That's all of it. So basically with that press, I'm just working the rubber out until I can get a good grip on it, and then I'm pulling it out the rest of the way. Plus the fact that I'm pressing it back and forth helps work it loose. Now there's that inner sleeve that's still on that cross shaft, and I'm grabbing it with some vice grips trying to hammer it out. But there's a little slit in that sleeve, and as you can see here, you get something and just spread it open, then you can grab a hold of it and yank it off pretty easy. I didn't show that on the upper control arm, but that was the same way I got those off too. And we're back on the press again, working that some more to try to get the other rubber piece out of there. It wasn't coming out as far. And here. We're grabbing it. That one didn't come out as far, but as you can see, the cross shaft is pushed all the way out of it, so you know it's giving you some room to grab it because we pressed it all the way out. Now you just got to get a good grip on it, and there it goes. It's out. And now we're taking that inner sleeve off that cross shaft. Now we're still going to have to take out those outer sleeves, and it's different this time because you can't get that cross shaft out of there, so I'm going to have to get those out with the air hammer. So what I did was lay it flat along that lip and just tried to work it out. Once I got it broke loose, then I went from behind. Well, that one I was just bending over the edges, and I'm getting behind with a punch, and I'm just going to punch it out. You see we're on the other side doing the same thing. You just want to keep that flat so you don't mess up the control arm. You just got to break it loose and then get behind it and get a good spot and punch it on out. Now we can take that cross shaft off and we are done with the lower control arm. Now we got to take this rotor off of this hub. You'd think since 1979 someone might have changed the rotors between now and then, but no, these are still riveted on with 5 big rivets. So the only way to get these off is, as you saw, I took the center punch and punched it right dead center. Now I'm taking a drill. I'm sure some people won't like what I'm using here. I got this step drill bit, trying to speed up the process. You just gotta hit spot dead center and start working it. And once I get down so far, then I get a bigger drill bit and knock that head off. This actually worked really well for me. Having to do this 5 times has sped the process up quite a bit. Now this is what I would do different. I didn't have to do this on the other one because the hub was stuck together, so it didn't matter. But right now what I would do is take your lug nuts and tighten this thing down so it can't move. That way once you get all these drilled out, you can just take your air hammer with a punch on it and knock those rivets completely out, because it's going to hold the rivets in the holes and you can knock them out. But what happens to me here is I go to knock the first rivet out and the hub came loose and dropped down. Then I could never get it tight enough where I could just knock those rivets out without having to chisel the rivets off. Unfortunately, the first one I did, the other one I did, the hub was on there so hard and so tight, I was able to knock all 5 rivets out, and then I had to take a 2x4 and lay on top of it and beat that hub off of the rotor with a hammer. Because it was just stuck on there, but this one wasn't stuck like that one was. This is a tedious process. I always hate that when I take these off and I see that they're still riveted on. So right now I'm taking that punch on the air hammer and trying to knock this rivet out. And like I said, when I did the other one, the hub and the rotor all stayed together and I was able to knock them all out, but this one, the hub comes loose, so nothing came out. So now the problem is all those rivets are sticking up there. So I got the idea, I thought, well, I'll just bolt this rotor on now and go ahead and try again. So as you see, I put the rotor back on, I screwed down some lug nuts, but that did not work. I got 2 of them out, 2 of them came out, but the other 3 just mushroomed on the top. As you can see, 2 of them came out, and those other 3, they're just mushroomed on the top, so I'm going to have to chisel those off and then do it again. So I knocked the rest of that rivet off with a chisel. I put it back on because I didn't want the air hammer bouncing all over the place, and this way I could just line the hole up and knock them out a lot easier. And they did come out much easier this way, but as I said, if I would have bolted that or took those lug nuts right at the beginning, I could have knocked them all right out and it would have been done a lot quicker. Now I'm going to take that backing shield off the knuckle, and there's a 1/15/16 bolt right here that's kind of held in place by two little tabs pushed up against it, so you have to mash those metal tabs down and then take that bolt out. The other two are 3/4, and there's a nut on the back, so you're going to have to hold the back with a wrench. This whole knuckle assembly will come apart, and you can replace that shield, which I'm going to do with new shields. And this is the last part we're taking apart on this front suspension assembly that we've been working on. And now we have it all ready to be cleaned up and painted.
Buff Whalen, because I always know a good deal when I see one.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Getting those bushings out is very controversial on how people want to do it. People burn them out, which I think is a horrible idea. They drill them out, where you're going to have to drill all the way around a complete circle in that bushing, which seems like a lot of work to get that out. And then the pressing, which is the way I did it and the way actually GM does it, which I think is the easiest way. I mean, I've done it lots of times where you're pressing and the entire thing comes out. That's beautiful when that happens, but like in this one, it did not happen. But still, it wasn't that much work getting them out. I thought it went pretty easy, actually. So I guess that's up to you how you want to do it. I know if you don't have a press, that's a big problem. But you can pick one up used around $50, $80, somewhere around there if you want that. Or sometimes you just gotta use what you gotta use, and you gotta do what you gotta do. But I'm just showing this. This is the method I use, and if that helps you out any, that's great. I hope it does. In the next episode, well, between these episodes, I'm gonna take all these parts and I'm gonna clean them up and paint them, which I'm gonna sandblast them. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, wire brush them, and then just paint them. I'm not gonna tape that because I don't see why anyone needs to see that. So in the next episode, I'll have it already painted up, and what we're going to do is put the bushings in and the ball joints in and do all we can. Maybe even get it on the car. I don't know. I don't know if we'll get that far or not. It's a cliffhanger. You'll have to subscribe to find out what will happen. How far will we get in the next episode? I know within 2 episodes, we'll have everything back on the front end of this car. It's got to be on there. Well, we're taking a quick look at this checklist, and so far we've only checked off 2 things, and I can't seem to check off that 3rd thing until we get that suspension together and back on the car. I got 2 other things on this list, but there's a multitude of other items that are going to need to be added. And how many days do I got left to do this before April 8th? Only 119 days. This could be rough. So, barring any other catastrophe, the next video should come out pretty quick. You need to subscribe to the channel. If you need any new or used C3, C4, C5 Corvette parts, you can go to my website at c3stingray.com. And that is it. I will see you on the road.